There's some people who had the power ring, and some people had the fucking lantern. Hey, welcome to this week's Nerd of Mouth. I am Mike Lawrence.
And I am Jake Young.
And I'm Brent Schmidt.
And today we have a very special, emotional episode. We're going to talk about growing up nerd. And really, we're going to try to answer the question, the age-old question, since the word nerd was created in 1954. When a military man described his son, we're going to try to answer the question: Is being a nerd something you choose, or does it choose you? And I think the best way to do that is let's try to describe what our childhoods were like.
Well, in that case, I'll just cry. And you can berate me for it, and that will be a perfect simulation of my
this
childhood.
episode is just going to be all of us striking out at T-ball.
I did that so many times. I would just hit the tee.
It's right there. It's not even moving.
I know.
You said fuck.
You know what? At least he can hold a baseball bat.
Producer Marcus Parks chiming in.
Nothing but highbrow.
Was not my choice.
Then
was forsaken by Odin's son.
Well, that's when you realize it's not a choice, because the fact is that if we were able-bodied, genetically superior folks, we would just fit in and do well at sports and just.
I didn't realize that this episode was going to quickly turn into that Batman the Animated Series episode where it's like, you didn't create, we didn't create you, you created us. They're like, I only ask questions because you're there to answer them. By the way, if your name is Edward Nygma, you will go on to be a puzzle-based supervillain.
Yeah,
that's no one's choice. So Jake, what was it like growing up?
Well, what's it? It's all about feeling separate. Like, something goes wrong. I moved when I was in kindergarten and never really felt like I belonged with the crew. And then you know what it was? Actually, every kid loves superheroes. Yeah. And every kid loves comic books, especially in the 90s when it was huge. And around 4th grade, everyone kind of moved on. Yeah. And I actually kind of looked at the landscape and was like, no, I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to see where this goes.
I like pouches. Yeah. I think that's a good way to describe it.
The Scarlet Spider seems to be going in an interesting direction. Yeah. You guys have fun touching boobs. I will see you later.
I think that really is a defining thing where it's everybody who's, a nerd, we start off, the things that we like are liked by everyone.
Wrestling.
Comic books. But we stay.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the question then, why do we stay? So why did you stay?
It's because they're fun. Because they're awesome. And it all has to do with fitting in and the things that most people... Oh, God, I'm going to... my psych major roots are going to just come flowing out. So you guys better make jokes as I get super serious. Yeah. Super serious, you guys. What's it? You start playing sports and you start sucking at them. And you start, whether you're not coordinated enough or whether you just had that little kiss of Asperger's syndrome that every nerd seems to be blessed with. Where just, the things that come easily to your peers all of a sudden are, way harder. And you kind of start looking for fun and enjoyment in other things, and then you find other freaks, and you start forming cliques, and you kind of just end up going down this path. It's kind of, oh God, I sucked at sports so bad. In the middle of baseball games, I had distinctly Little League games, which by the way, no nerd. Like, just put on the baseball uniform, and if you look stupid, you're clearly not going to be a baseball player. You can always tell which kids are just there out of pressure because, like, the pants are hiked way too high, and, like, the stirrups are, like, one's broken.
You try to de-emphasize the stripes. Look even fatter.
Like, I was stuck in right field and, like, just bored out of my mind, and, like, I would just sit down. I would just sit down in the middle of right field.
You would just go all the way. Like, I was so far to the right field that I could see the cars passing by.
I was a catcher because I couldn't throw it any farther than 2 pitchers.
The classic nerdy baseball throw is one where, like, most people, like, maybe take a step then throw, and you kind of, like, start skipping, like, 3 or 4 times before you finally let it go.
Well, I had a joke where I would say, I throw a baseball the way Truman Capote reviews a bad Cobb salad at the Waldo. Well, that won't do.
So when you're in this world where you're weak and, like, and I got to find a better, but when you're not good and weak and, like, you kind of hate your body and you hate yourself, you read comic books, you watch wrestling, you get into movies, and it's like escapism, and you kind of just end up drawn to it when other people move on. I don't want to. Someone else talk. I'm all, like, rambly now.
Yeah. Well, Brent. Why are you a nerd?
I don't know. I think it mainly started off when I was a little kid. I was an only child.
Yeah.
And I went to the private school in my small town, but all those kids lived on the rich end of town. And I was, living next to all the public school kids. So
you were already way too smart for your own good at age 7.
Yes, exactly.
I built my second death ray machine and understood how to transfer memories. So I didn't really need to do anything else.
So who needs friends when you have the Prodigy Network?
Yeah. I was an indoor kid. I loved reading.
Indoor kid.
I just got really into movies and then video games, and I'm probably a bigger video game nerd than anything. But, like, even as I
don't think there are indoor kids. They're just kids who aren't outdoors.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I believe we were still on the cusp when, like, the internet hadn't completely consumed America's youth yet.
Well, he's only. I mean, I'm 28. I'm
27,
and you're
22.
22. So yeah, by the time. I mean, that technology-wise, that is a big enough difference that you grew up much more with the internet, where it was something that we
I remember my first email account was in 3rd grade. It was a Hotmail account, and it was named after a character in my favorite book series.
So you grew up with that kind of there's like I kind of got that, like, in high school I was kind of part of it, but, like, from a very young age. You were probably had hundreds of friends online, like through LiveJournal and Zangas and all that stuff, right?
And he was still horribly alone.
Well, that's how that works.
No, not even internet friends. I just didn't branch out. That's all this is going to be. It's just
Juice by Brent. Juice by Brent. Go Brent.
Who can be more sad? I always win. No,
by that you always lose.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I win by losing. That's, but yeah, so I just grew up kind of getting these, like, nerdy obsessions, like, reading an entire series of books. It's like 60 books, and I'm like, I gotta get them all, and they're just dumb, shitty teen.
Before
sci-fi.
Pokemon, there were books.
Yeah. And then I started to kind of get into that
catch
kind of
them
stuff.
all. It's my best friend, Charles Dickens.
But yeah, so that's. I mean, it was mainly just being alone and being bored.
Yeah, that'll. It's people. I always describe it like when people are like. The things that everyone else find incredibly easy, or, like, kind of easy to get over at the very least, is just baffling if you're a nerd. Like, at some point, like, at your first party in 6th grade, you can either be like, guess I'll just man up, drink my first 7 beers in a row, and go hang out with people, or I could hang out by the wall. How's it going, wall? You won't judge me.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, like, that's the thing with me is that, like, because I don't drink and all that stuff, and I think there is that part of me. There's that part of me. No, we're not. there's that part of me that's always been afraid to cross over. As I've always stayed, because I mean, let's be honest here. Everything that we have loved as nerds has horribly disappointed us. You know, and after a while, it really does come down to us being like, well, I'm just not going to leave here. The neighbors get louder. It gets smellier. There's more fucking bed bugs. There's all these clones. I mean, everything just ends up, like, wrestling fucking broke my heart in 1995 when Jeff Jarrett started getting pushed into the title scene. Fucking comic books with the Clone Saga and all the X titles. That really pissed me off. You know, video games, started getting shittier.
You don't give up the nerd tendencies, they just shift to other things. It's about obsessiveness.
But there are times when I know that I should have. Because God knows that shit didn't make me happy. When The Simpsons got bad, I should have known what pussy tasted like. For whatever reason, I didn't, and that's my own fault because I was afraid. I was like, because I kept watching that show like 3 or 4 seasons after it got bad, and I just couldn't. And it is a. I mean, to me, I believe it's a choice. There's been that fear, like.
But when The Simpsons got bad, South Park got good, and when Spider-Man got bad, like Michael Bendis was writing, like. Jinx came out, everything.
Yeah, there's always been good. Yeah, there's always been good stuff, obviously. But at the same time, the stuff that you get really attached to, if you stick around long enough,
everything goes to shit.
Yeah. I mean, like the Fantastic Four is my favorite comic book series of all time. There has been one good run every 20 years, but God knows you keep reading, hoping that's the next one.
Yeah,
because you have to. And but it's like, but no, you don't.
Well, it's an interesting what the idea of like growing up is as a nerd is growing up feeling separate, like feeling like alone, or I mean, like most nerds, I'm sure we had like a crew of like 3 to 4 like true blood brothers.
See,
I didn't as much. Like I would for little spurts, but then I wouldn't. And then the thing was that this was like the paradox for me was that I would be so much nerdier than my friends with the nerd stuff. Like when they liked Todd McFarlane, I knew who John Buscema was. And when they finally got to know John Buscema, I read Golden Age comics for no other reason but then just to know it all.
So the problem was growing up in Florida, you couldn't take advantage of the 70-year-old Jews that were all around you who knew exactly what you're talking about.
But so like and I always felt alienated because like. You know, with The Simpsons, like I'd had friends who watched the episode last night but didn't know who Robert Goulet was. And I had to know because he fucking did a voice. And then, like, so there was that of me feeling high and mighty. But then, you know, around 8th or 9th grade and the internet came around, I've completely felt lost because those people took it to such a higher level, and then I realized what my limitations were. It was actually kind of good for me becoming a real person because, like, when you think you know everything about The Simpsons and guys are, you know, your age are referencing production code numbers.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, all right, well, you know, and that's not even fun. Like, you can know everything. Just the fact, like that's what's interesting about the internet and technology is that, like, you know, Jake, you grew up in New York. You grew up in Iowa, Brent,
South
and
Dakota.
Well, same difference.
Same
and Smallville, and I grew up in Florida. And these things that we grew up watching, shit like Darkwing Duck and WMAC Masters, are things that we watched alone and we thought were only ours, and we didn't have anyone to really talk to about them. And then you see this community where everything that you love, everything that you enjoyed is documented and listed, and it's so weird to me. Like, and there was a time where I thought, like, I don't want to be a fan of anything anymore because I can't be the best. You know, and
but I mean, you're tapping into something which is the especially for the lonesome nerd is the evil genius Lex Luthor kind of undercurrent, which is
yes,
like,
my hair fell out when I was 12 in a silo.
It's like it's that whole jealousy and resentment thing where like Around 12 years old, like all of a sudden the thought is not like, oh man, I'm such a jerk. It's like, those fools shun me. If only they were to discover my greatness.
Yeah, but like when I was a kid,
I'm not fucked. The system's fucked, man.
When I was a kid, I was like, man, I love The Undertaker. His first debut match was at Survivor Series 1990, and then you go to the internet. His real name is is Mark Calloway. He debuted in the WCW as Mean Mark Callis. I was like, but I like The Undertaker. You just felt so. It was funny because nerds made me feel way more insignificant about myself than people who weren't nerds.
This is going on the internet and like getting on forums and like trying to connect.
Even now, it's like
because it's like you've devoted so much of your life towards that thing, and these other people still have like an encyclopedic knowledge beyond yours.
I've mentioned the lightest tap, just the merest happy slap of Asperger's syndrome that all nerds have. There are some people that got the full frontal, just smack from God. That was like, you won't understand what love is, but congratulations knowing everything about calculus.
There's some people who had the power ring, and some people had the fucking lantern.
Exactly.
Well, I think we should take a break, and we'll be right back. Okay, all right, so we're back.
Now, the key moment in every nerd's life is, and what kind of cements it from like phase to rest of your life, is the moment you go out of your way to see and engage with something and discover that there are, in fact, you're not alone. There's a community of people that do, in fact, love things, as Mike noted, autistically much more than you, and also in like the same way, like the first time I went to a They Might Be Giants concert and realized that I was not a freak, I was one of an army of freaks, and some of them were actually girls.
Yeah, but then there were people at that concert who had every recording, all the B-sides, and you're like, but I bought all the albums, at Specs.
The first time I went to an anime convention and just seeing everyone just like enjoying the crap out of the most like out of this thing that like everyone I knew was like ashamed of knowing too much about. It kind of feels good. It kind of feels like a tent revival. It's like we're all on the same page, and this is awesome. And I don't feel alone anymore. Like, did you say you went to a Mudvayne concert during the break?
It was Mudvayne, Exhibit, Blindside, and Linkin Park. They played in Rapid City, South Dakota.
And all of a sudden, you weren't Brent Schmidt, the sad kid. You were part of a concert dedicated solely to sad kids.
I was
that
terrified.
tour feels like it was sponsored by a deodorant company, but no one there was using deodorant.
Power strike.
Why is there always one guy with awful BO at every concert?
Because I like music, Brent.
And because every band needs a drummer.
Like, I mean, when you went to, you must have gone to like wrestling events and stuff. Like,
yeah. Like I said, but then like, like I said, even today, like, I mean, and it's forced me to like, it's forced me to be a person more and to like myself as a person, realizing that I will never be, the nerd. Yeah, I will never be the ultimate nerd. Like, I mean, because in actuality,
Marcus and I are exchanging glances. Like, you'll always be the ultimate nerd in our hearts, buddy.
But in actuality, like, you're only as nerdy as the people around you aren't nerdy at all. Like,
I mean, like, okay. Here's it is,
but it was like this thing in my life. It helped because then I was like, well, you know what? I may not be the smartest nerd. I may not be the, I may not know the most, but goddamn, I'm the most attractive. No, but it's like, but I also do other things outside of that, and I like those things. And, it's like, because we're all comedians, and we cannot devote our lives to there are amazing, movies and comic books and all this stuff that we will never be able to read because we're doing other things.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yeah. The idea that it's relative is really key because, Brent, I remember we had a talk a while back where were you a counselor at a computer camp?
Yeah, it's kind of a nerd camp.
Right, and how awesome were those summers because you were in fact doing well within a community.
Yeah, it was that was kind of my paradise. And it was for everyone there because
Windows 98 just came out.
Because it's South Dakota, so there are all these kids from small rural schools, and they all felt the stuff that you described. They felt alone, that they were a freak, they had these weird interests, and then this camp was just gifted kids from across the state who just got to hang out and be nerds.
Brought together by a mysterious foundation that may or may not try to conquer the world.
Hell yeah.
I had a similar experience when I spent 2 summers in Fat Camp, and it was genuinely the greatest time of my life because not only was I not a nerd, I was an actual successful human being because everyone sucked at sports. Everyone was awkward to talking to girls.
Don't you wish that you had a terrible time there so you'd be thinner?
No, that's the tragedy of Fat Camp is that it creates this realm. What? Oh, I get it. Yeah. That's not how that works. The tragedy
Don't you wish it was horrific? And then you'd be like, God, I don't want to be like this. I'm going to die at the age of 29.
I should show you the pictures. It's insane how much weight I would lose there only to gain it back because all of a sudden I went back to the junk food, terrible self-esteem world that is America.
Reese's for breakfast.
Was once a king, but now a prince. No, my kingdom of fudge.
By the way, my self-published comic book series, My Kingdom of Fudge, will be released on Boom Studios in the next coming year.
I'll tell you this: I grew up with a disability, ignoring people's feelings. No.
Grew up with?
Yeah. All right, Baldy.
We got it.
All right. Okay, Tweedledum, and Tweedle. All right. Anyway, so
Mike's inner football player just came out, by the
way. Yeah, my inner Ted McGinley. But yeah, so I grew up with motor skill deficiency. I have horrible handwriting. I could never really draw the very things I love, comic books. But I remember I went to occupational therapy and stuff like that, and I'd have a class a week with the special kids, kids who are handicapped and mentally handicapped.
Oh, did you have to do that walk of shame where in the middle of the regular school day you had to just get up and leave?
Will Mike Lawrence please come to the front of the office for his therapy session?
Oh, that's brutal. That is,
You thought the flies were not part of the Lord, but...
Attention, students, in case you were told otherwise, Mike is different from you. He is very different.
But thank God I hated it so that I learned to be somewhat normal.
Somewhat.
No, we had the same thing.
I'm going home to have sex with something that isn't just a conglomeration of pillows, all right?
When are we selling those, by the way, on the Nerd of Mouth store?
Pillowfuck.com.
Oh, okay.
I guarantee it exists. Marcus?
That's just where people get to watch you have sex.
Now, did you, you say, the way we've grown up, are you not a nerd anymore? Or did you just grow up to learn to be happy within it?
I definitely still see myself as a nerd, but I learned that, and it's something I identify with, and I'm proud of it. I wouldn't be doing, this podcast if I wasn't. But I see myself, first and foremost. I'll just use it in terms of stand-up comedy. I don't consider myself a nerd comic first. I consider myself a sad comic. When I do showcase sets and I put forth my best material, the majority of it is, my parents divorcing, working at McDonald's and stuff like that.
Just a smack of Batman.
Yeah, and it's still there, but that's like, and I feel that stuff defines me more than anything, but that also relates to my nerdiness, which is a person afraid to let go.
Yeah.
I can't get over my parents' divorce or Virgil leaving Ted DiBiase. and it's all the same thing in a way. Like and there's I'll be completely honest, there's a part of me that wishes that I didn't like comic books anymore and I didn't like wrestling and I think that I could even be happier without them because they
Is this when you're about to burst into the song like, someday I'll be not such a nerd?
No, this is where I just start imagining how I'm going to feel when Thor comes out and realize that I should have let go because every fucking year I put myself I always get hopeful. Like I just saw the Green Lantern trailer and I was like, it's
the Wonder
It's just a little CGI. It's so good. It's so good. It's just a little hackenite. It's so good. It's so good. It's good. I know. But there's that part of me like, and I still like even The Simpsons. I still have to I still have to put it on at least 5 minutes every year because if a nerd is anything, he's hopeful. Would you say that? I think we're about to wrap this up, but would you say that you always believe if we are anything, we are optimistic because we've all drowned in negativity. We've all been harassed and made fun of and picked on. But the one thing that kept us going was believing that our own lives would get better, and they haven't.
For many
the stuff
nerds
that we like
don't
would get
dedicate
better.
themselves to stand-up comedy, it in fact does get much better.
No, yeah,
God damn it does.
Yeah.
But all right, Radio Flyer, and it does.
Jesus.
It does. I mean, it does get better. But at the end of the day, like that's from you. That's not just from liking the same thing enough. That's you making yourself happier and you choosing to be happier because God knows the things we love will never do that for us. They're nice to have, but you have to find other things in life sometimes that won't let you down.
I'm going to make a brief counterpoint. Sometimes things are nice.
But
we're already running late on time.
I mean, my thing.
Meet me outside a theater when X-Men First Class comes out. You'll beg to differ, but you know what? Like with that, like I know I'm going to go, and I want it to be good. I don't think it's going to be good, but I'll still see it because that and that to me is why I'm still a nerd because I still believe. And everybody who shits on the Star Wars prequels, everybody who shits on. Anything that's been bad, the Dungeons and Dragons movie, whatever albums there are, anyone who shits on that stuff does because God knows when they went to see it, they needed to believe it was going to be good.
Yeah.
I contend I'm still a nerd because of Garth Ennis and the Coen brothers and all the hundreds of things that are made from the nerdosphere that are still incredibly awesome and engaging and better than what the mainstream gives to people.
Absolutely.
And you got to bite into a turd sandwich once in a while. But those paninis with the horseradish dressing and the extra lean roast beef. Delicious.
Yeah, and that sounds like someone who enjoyed Fat Camp too much. I'm Mike Lawrence. Give it up for our guest, Brent Schmidt. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm Jake Young.
And thanks to Marcus for keeping this going, and we'll be back soon.
Oh, and I still want to learn how to play D&D.
The end? Question mark. Good night, guys.